Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Travel Channel. We're going today to look at Vienna, which is the city of music, and also we're going to look at some of the Vienna secrets. Now, if you're listening from the United States, you'll always remember that the city of music is Nashville, because I asked people in America, what is the city of music? They go, Nashville. Unfortunately, that's not true. The city of music is Vienna, which is a whole different place. And has been a city of music far before Nashville was even thought of. So what we're looking at is your first trip to Vienna, what you should see, what you should experience, where you should stay, where you should go, and look at some of the secrets of Vienna. Now, first of all, one of the draws to Vienna, we're going to take a look at this right now. They have a very great picture that you'll see here. It's called The Kiss. Okay, and the thing is, the Kiss is so famous it was hard to get a shot of the Kiss, and it's not at the Kunsthistorisches Museum, which is their art museum. You actually have to go to another place called the Belvedere. So the first thing you notice about Vienna is you got to find the art. It's almost like running around looking for where is this art, okay? And this art is not in the Kunsthistorisches Museum. You have to go to the Belvedere Palace, and then you'll see the Kunsthalle. But you'll notice also that it's very crowded. There's a lot of people. It's like the Mona Lisa of Vienna. And so it's a little bit difficult to find and see. I just think that it's something you definitely need to be aware of, that we have a very good piece of music, a piece of art that's in Vienna. Now, let's talk about Nashville. What about Nashville? Some people mentioned, well, Nashville's the city of music. Well, I don't think so. I think what you're looking at is really Nashville is the city of country music, not the city of music. So when you're looking at Nashville, think of country music. Please don't think of music. It's not really the city of music. It's country music. What about New York and Taylor Swift? Okay, so Taylor Swift, who's heavy into country music, moves to New York. Does that make it the city of music? No, it's not the city of music. That's New York City. It has a lot of different features, but it's not the city of music. Now, why is Vienna the city of music? It has Mozart, stayed there, Strauss, Bach, Beethoven, all were in Vienna. And you can actually go to the restaurants that they ate at, and we'll show you some of the restaurants that they ate at and places they walked in. Now, again, Nashville, think of Johnny Cash and the Grand Ole Opry. So this is a big difference. That's country music. This is, could even call it the city of classical music. Mozart, Strauss, Bach, and they're all in Vienna. So, Vienna does have its place in the sun, and there's certainly a reason to go. And I think the reason is, of course, you want to listen to Strauss, and he plays some very interesting music. But there's other things to do and see while you're in Vienna, and we're going to take a look at it. First of all, there's St. Stephen's Cathedral, which was built around 1147. And this is a draw, but in my opinion, it is not the best cathedral in Vienna. There are other cathedrals that are just as good, if not better, and we're going to look at them today also as well. But let's take a look at St. Stephen's while you're here, because everybody will go to it, or it's almost like you can't not go to St. Stephen's Cathedral. And but it's just not in my opinion, it's not the best cathedral. It is an old Baroque cathedral. It's built around 1147, so it's been around for a long time. But let's go take a look at it. First of all, St. Stephen's is a very tall cathedral. So when you look at it, it's huge. But if you take a look at it, it's really not that impressive. Okay, so now let's take a look at the people. And here's some of the people that are in St. Stephen's Cathedral. It's just, like I said, it's interesting, but I just don't think it's the best cathedral or best church in Vienna. So if that's not the best church, what is the best church? You want to go down the street to the ring and look at this one. It's called St. Charles. Now notice the difference. This is St. Charles. Now granted, St. Charles has a little bit of advantage. St. Charles was built much later than St. Stephen's. So the thing is, and had basically a nice sized budget. So they and this is what I call one of the secrets of Vienna. You have to go to the Ring and you'll find the St. Charles Church. But like I said, you just got to take a look at the difference. This is St. Charles Church, and this is the Cathedral of St. Stephen. This is where everybody goes to see because it is the tallest. It's the biggest. But is it the best? Well, you look again. There's some pictures of St. Charles. This is St. Charles, and so I was much more impressed with St. Charles than I was with St. Stephen's. And here's the organ in St. Charles. Like, everything's new, modern. It has a big wow effect. So if you do happen to go to the Ring and you'll go see the St. Charles Church, you may be in for a surprise. In other words, something that's much better. But before we get into more detail, we're going to go to the top of this charts. Okay. We're going to look at St. Stephen's, as we know, it's in 1147, and we're also going to go to now secret number 1, the Stephen's Platz. And the area around it is great. It really doesn't get a lot of love or attention, which is very sad. But the thing is, if you ever do happen to go to St. Stephen's, then you'll find out that there's places around it which are just very impressive. So there's a reason to go there, and it mainly has to do with the surrounding area. And when we were there, we also found there was some really good places to go to. So, and here was one of the restaurants that were there, the Stephen's Platz. So we just stumbled into this place near the Stephen's Platz, and it's a whole great shopping center, shopping district. Doesn't appear on much of the tour guides, but really has fantastic hotels, fantastic food. And you can find it if you go to St. Stephen's Square and you head away from the square, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's just really pretty spectacular. Okay, so that's secret number 1. Secret number 2, as I said, St. Stephen's is not the best cathedral in Vienna. We looked at the best cathedral in Vienna. It is not it's St. Charles. And you just have to go see it. But you have to go look for it. The tours will always say, oh, go to St. Stephen's, go to St. Stephen's. And that's where all the turistas go. But if you want to look at it, like I said, just take a nifty little comparison. Art is in the eyes of the beholder. That is St. Charles. And let's go look at St. Stephen's again. This is St. Stephen's. Older, but not as good. So that's secret number 2, is you want to go look at the best cathedral, which is in that. Okay, now we go into the imperial palaces. Unfortunately, becomes very confusing because there are quite a few of them. In other words, you have to see, okay, this is Vienna. Which imperial palace? By the way, this is not this is like the art museum. And so the thing is, and this is certainly worth going to, the Christian History's Art Museum. Fantastic. It's one of the best art museums in the world. But you're also going to go to the various different palaces. Now, one that we did not spend a lot of time with, which we should have, is the one called the Hofburg, which is it's a very famous palace. It's the palace, but it was last on my list. So I didn't really spend much time in there because I've seen a lot of palaces. And also the Vienna skyline. Not that impressive. Okay. Once you're in the city, it is impressive. But when you look at the skyline, it's not like New York or any of the major places. But you will probably go to the Vienna Hofburg Court Palace. It's pretty famous, etc. When you're there. There's other things that you may want to see and do where in Vienna. First of all, just realize the Hofburg Fort was built around 1279, so it has a lot of history. And then what happened was years go by, and this goes to 1713, so we go forward. Franz Stevens of Lorraine and Maria Theresa decided to create their winter residence, but their winter residence was in the Hofburg Palace. but they also had a summer residence in the Schomburg Palace. And then there's another one that we just went to called the Belvedere. And the Belvedere is where the Klimts have their famous paintings at. So there's three places you have to go to: Hofburg, Belvedere, and Schomburg Palace, three of them. There's another thing that you can see, which is the Lippenzahn Spanish Riding School. And the thing is, this is kind of interesting because these are basically the Lippenzahn stallion horses. And they these horses have been around for a long time. They're very famous. They actually have one in a riding school in Guadalajara de Frontera in Spain. And what they did is they took these horses and they brought them into Vienna, the Vienna court, because the Spain and the Habsburg family were sort of united under Charles V, and he wanted to bring in something really good from Spain, and he brought the horses, the Lippenzahn stallions, and they even have their own little horse stable that you can go see when you're there. So that's another possibility once you're in Vienna. The Ring, like I said before, is where you're going to find St. Charles Church. And also the Ring has some very other interesting things. The Wiener Musikvereins Music since 1870. So they have basically a music palace. And there's music palaces all over Vienna. So when you happen to go, you're going to be able to see quite a few of the music palaces that are there. So we got a chance to go to quite a few of them once we were there. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, they also have the Vienna State Opera, and that was built in 1869. So there's other things to see, like the Vienna State Opera. And this one, some of the stuff you can't pronounce because it's German, Kunsthistorisches Museum, the best art. But just remember, the KISS is not there. So there's the museum. We'll have the best art. It's a must-see when you're in Vienna, but guess what? The KISS will not be there. You're going to have to go somewhere else. Now, again, the Belvedere Palace is where you're going to find the KISS. And when you do go find it, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to go take pictures of it because of all these people in the way. So that makes it difficult. However, there's some other good artwork that you'll find in Vienna. You'll find the Tower of Babel, which is pretty neat, and quite a few other pieces of artwork that you'll find when you're in. And also you're going to find when you're in Vienna, Napoleon, of course. Okay, now what is Napoleon doing there? Well, apparently he took residence in the Schomburg or Belvedere Palace, or both, when he decided to march on to Vienna. So he did get to spend some of his time there. And you're going to see this sort of a famous painting. And what you find out is the painting of Napoleon on a horse who got cut off here is in about 4 different places. In other words, there's reprints of this in various different places. Okay, so once you're done with the Belvedere Palace and you've seen the KISS and Gustav Klimt, you also go to the Schomburg Palace, which is also the summer palace of it's the summer palace of Vienna, and they do have quite an interesting thing. This is where you have this beautiful view. There it is. It's cut off a little bit, but it's absolutely a huge palace that you get to walk around and see and learn a lot about Maria Theresa, who became the queen of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and then took her children and married them off to other places. So she became a very powerful queen. But once you go here, you'll see this is a pretty big and very interesting palace. Now we compare that's the Hofburg Palace. That's the, you have to imagine that's the Winter Palace, which is in the same city. This is weird. And then you have the Summer Palace, which is in the same city. So you don't go too far. So it's a little bit confusing, but it is what it is. And then we also have, like I said, Napoleon he had a residence in the Schaumburg Palace from 1806 to 1809. He decided, whoa, this place is pretty nice. I think I will stay here. And then Emperor Karl I was born here in 1918, so it has a lot of history. And of course, Prince Eugene of Savoy in 1683 after the Turks were defeated. Now, this is a big famous part of Vienna's history, and they call this the Polish king Jan Harbinski had 18,000 winged hussars on horses in the Battle of Vienna. He leashed them on the Ottoman Turks. And the Turks didn't know what to do with these, and so they basically got slaughtered and they ran, and then that was the end of the siege of Europe. The Ottomans decided we're going to stay away from Europe. And this all took place way back in 1683. And Prince Eugene of Savoy took residence in this place. So a lot of people went there. Okay, so we know where the royals live. The royals live in these three palaces. You have the Hofburg Palace, you have the Belvedere Palace, and you have the Schaumburg Palace. But what about normal people? Where should you stay? And this is the place what I would recommend to go to. And that's the Intercontinental Hotel. By the way, they're not sponsoring this, so they don't get paid for this. It's just my own personal opinion. I started liking the Intercontinental Hotels, and we're going to take a look at the Intercontinental Hotels in just a minute. Part of it, it's part of the IHG chain, which is actually Holiday Inn. It's one of the top end Holiday Inns. But the key thing about the Intercontinental is they're very nicely taken care of. In other words, the interior is nice, the exterior is not so great, but the interior is very nice. They always have like a 24-hour concierge tour guide there. They always have a great gym there, and they always have great restaurants there. So the thing is, let's go take a look at the Intercontinental Hotel, because the thing is, the Intercontinental Hotel, if you, and there's only one reason you wouldn't stay at it, the Intercontinental, the pricing. Okay, so here's the Intercontinental Hotel, and then we'll talk about the pricing in a minute. Sometimes, okay, it's kind of a bland on the outside, I have to admit. It was built in the 1960s, but it's right across the street from Stratz Park. I had no idea. Location was actually very good. You could walk into downtown, you could walk to the park, you could frankly walk anywhere from this. But the key of the Intercontinental obviously is not the outside of the hotel. It's the inside of the hotel, which is pretty nice. And let's go take a look. And they're always very well decorated. They have great restaurants, cafes inside, shopping, gyms. It just has and the people there are unbelievably great. Now, here's the only reason you wouldn't stay there: pricing. Sometimes it's very, very expensive, and sometimes it's very normal. So you just have to look at the price. If the price is right, you should stay at the Intercontinental Hotels, because it's a great, in of itself is a vacation. I'm just saying. So, and once you stay there, you might become addicted. So I wanted to give a plug to the Intercontinentals, because they certainly, it's my number one hotel place to stay. Now, what about the Ritz-Carlton right across the street? They're a little bit stuffy. What about the Marriott? Too corporate. Now, if you like stuffy, go to the Ritz-Carlton. If you like corporate, go to the Marriott. If you just like a nice hotel, you go to the Intercontinental. I mean, it's just the name of the game. So it's just what my personal opinion is. The Intercontinental Hotel is the place to go. Now, the other thing you're going to find out when you're in Vienna is the restaurants. They have all these very interesting restaurants around. And the restaurants are interesting because of who stayed there. So we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to take a look at some of these restaurants they have. And they got some really nice ones too. And the thing is about the restaurants is that a lot of the famous places that you go to, you find famous people ate, like Mozart. So you go to a restaurant, Mozart ate there, or Strauss, or Bach, so, and these restaurants are still open. So you have a chance to actually go there. Now, that's the good news. And they're pretty cute. They're all very historic, pretty cute. But what you have to be concerned about is the pricing. They do tend to charge a little bit more for eating at that particular restaurant. And this is the Zum Wiesen and Rock and Care, the best of Australian cuisine. And of course, it was built in 1848. This is not unusual. They're chimney sweeps. They always will show you the history of these particular restaurants. And like I said, some of them are pretty good. And this happens to be one of them. Now, we also want to talk about the Vienna cruise. Okay, that's my wife after she fell down, stumbling around in Vienna. So she had to go to the hospital. There's these trees with iron rods around them, and in the middle of the night, she can hit and fall down. Now, we went to get the cruise on the Danube. Okay, so we signed up for this cruise, but there's two Danubes, and you don't know this until you get there. There's the Danube Canal and the Danube River. The Danube River is what we wanted to see. The cruise said to the Danube, so we went on this, but it was the canal. And so we thought, well, they went way out there. They're going to go to that. Then they turned around before they got to the river and came back. Then they went to the other end of the canal. Then they turned around and went back. So we never saw the Danube River. We're always on the Danube Canal. But it's listed as cruise on the Danube. So we got our cruise on the Danube. And so when you're crying, you go back to the Intercontinental Hotel. Or you go to another restaurant, which we did, which is the Vienna Mozart. And that's a picture of Mozart standing on top of the piano because he was at this particular restaurant. So you're going to find out that he was there. And when you go to the museums, the art museums, one thing you start learning is they have pictures. Like, this is a Venice. So why would they have a picture of Venice in a Vienna museum? Here, and then they tell you, here's the reason why. The wealthy people of Vienna, to show how sophisticated they were, would buy art of other cities that they've been to, like Venice, and put them on the walls. And then ultimately, they ended up in museums. So if you're wealthy, you want to travel, you want to buy art from the cities you travel to, and you want to put them on your wall. So there's quite a few pictures like that around there. And then, of course, like I said, unfortunately, like I said, she fell down and got injured in Vienna. So it was something. But, and this was before the fall. Okay, Stratz Park, right across the street from the Intercontinental, like Strat Park is there. And it's a great park to go to. First of all, they have a restaurant that is unbelievable in the park. Then they have all these things that are going on. For example, you can look at Goethe. He's got a statue there in the park. So you'll see a lot of statues once you're there. And then another statue you'll find, but not in the park, but close to the Intercontinental, is Beethoven. Some commentators are going, why is Beethoven way over here in the middle of nowhere? No one knows where he's at. It's just because that's where they put him. So you can see the Beethoven statue, but it's pretty far away. And then, of course, there is the Maria Theresa statue. And she's like extremely famous because she was a ruler for a long time. Big history behind her. Then there's more, but there's more. Like I said, there's the Vienna Mozart, and then also this is part of the restaurant that you can go see, some of the many restaurants that they have there. So once you go there, you're going to find out there's a lot of good stuff to see and do in Vienna. There are the restaurants that are fantastic. There's the artwork that's fantastic. And then there's the music that's fantastic. So there's plenty of stuff to see, feel, and do once you're in there. But don't forget, if you want a good stay at the Intercontinental Hotel, and then you'll get to see some of the famous artwork and things that are around Vienna. There's not much more that we have to say, except I probably have to go back. And part of it is that, yeah, we got to see a lot of stuff, but I really did miss this museum and, of course, the Hofburg and quite a few other sites. This is my first approach into Vienna. But there's a lot of good stuff to see there now. how high it's recommended. Vienna is Vienna. I mean, hate to say there's nothing like it, but there's really nothing like it. And the city is unbelievably clean. Not like some of the other cities you've gone to. You're going to see that everything is clean. The Stratz Park is very clean. All the restaurants are clean, nice, modern. So there's a lot to see and do once you're over in Vienna, and there's a lot of history behind it. So it's almost everywhere you go, there's going to be architecture, history, things to see, things to do, food to eat. Kind of an amazing place to be. So I do have to put it on the recommendation list. Whether you're going to make it there or not is a whole nother story, but we certainly would like to recommend that you spend some time in Vienna. Let's see if there's anything else interesting here. Vienna. Well, nope, except you should be able to enjoy your stay, enjoy the hotels, enjoy your time in Vienna. And I hope you enjoyed our presentation. We try to make it short and sweet and place it, of course, on the Pod TV network, which will be showing and airing more travel information. Of course, there's Travel with Brandon, which is much better than what I do. I'm just looking at some of these places that I think would be interesting for you to go to. And hopefully you enjoyed our quick presentation. But just remember, don't forget the St. Charles Church when you have a chance to go to Vienna. And we'll see you next time on the Travel Channel on the Pod TV network. In the meantime, safe travels.